Okay, so we got through our first one, and it wasn't a lot of work. The picture looks nice and clear. And we're going to take a look at example 2 now. So example 2 has a little bit different thing going on here. Let me scroll in. Ooh, there we go. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is just go with the template. We're going to look and see what degree this is. Now, remember, to determine the degree, if it's in factored form, which these are already, then what you're going to do is you're just going to count your x's. So you've got an x times an x times an x. So we've got another x to the third, which means we have a cubic again. Okay, it's going to be an x to the third. The next thing we have to do is take a look at our a value and see if it's positive or negative. And to do that, we have to look at the coefficients in front of the x terms and multiply them together. So remember that this is really a negative 1. So this is negative 1 times 1 times 1. Oh, that's a negative 1. Okay, so our a value is going to be negative. Alrighty. So now I know what shape I have. I know a cubic is a lightning bolt because it's an odd function, which means the end behaviors are opposite. I also know that because it's negative, when I go to draw this, this is just like my little reminder graph that when a is negative, it starts high and it goes down. So from top left is high, and then bottom right is down. So this is what our basic graph will look like. The next thing we have to do is we need to find the y-intercept. So the y-intercept, remember, is the constant. And our constant is found by multiplying our end numbers together. So I have 4 times negative 6 times 0. See how this is really like the end number would be plus 0? So 0 times 4 times negative 6 is 0. So this one has a y-intercept at 0, 0. Again, you got the negative 6, you got the times 4, and there's no number here, so there's really a 0 there. So that's where that 0 comes from. So that's going to happen. And then, of course, our last is our zeros. Finding our zeros are pretty easy once we're factored. And we're going to take each piece. So I've got negative x equals 0. I've got x plus 4 equals 0. And I have x minus 6 equals 0. I'm going to solve each of those for x. This one, to get x by itself, I would divide by negative 1. And I get x is 0. This side subtract 4. And x is negative 4. And this one I would add 6. And x is 6. So I have the cubic, degree 3. I have at most 3 crosses. Boom, boom, boom. So this is going to cross in 3 spots. Once at 0, once at negative 4, and once at positive 6. I also think it's interesting that it's going to cross at 0, which means the y-intercept has to be 0. So that happens. Time to plot. We don't need it to be fancy or to scale. We have to plot x at 0, so that's right on the axis where the origin. I need x at negative 4. Here's a negative 4, put a dot. Here's x at 6. Put a dot. That's it. The y-intercept is the same as the x-intercept. It's going to cross right through the origin. Okay? And if you ever find that your x-axis, or you have x equals 0 as a 0, you automatically have your y-intercept at 0, 0. So if you kind of miss it here, you'll catch it here. Because if x is 0, y has to be 0. That's the only spot that happens. Now it's time for me to graph. I know I have to start top left, and I have to end up bottom right. that means that I'm going to start up here. I have to start top left. And I have to cross. Everywhere I hit a dot, I got to cross. So I'm going to cross through at -4. Come back down. Oh, I got to cross at 0. So I got to come back through and cross at 0. Oh, I'm at 6. I got to cross back down. And I need to end bottom right. So cross, cross, cross. This is a cubic with a -a in factored form. This is what the sketch would look like.